on June 11th, I have it documented in a journal that I've been keeping, that I specifically asked, could a cover-up be involved? And when you think back on it now, I must have been on to something. It was on to something even earlier than that was able to document it in a journal on June 11th. And now, when I think of June 29th, and I'm hearing the judge saying that if there's no body, then there's no evidence. You know, what was transpiring during those initial 9 days, Martin? What was transpiring? Who was helping who? Who was coaching who? Who was covering their tracks? You know, it can only now just raise just huge frustration and anger in me now when I look back on it. And you know what will be even further to me damning is when we find out how well, okay, we've got a 17-year-old male sitting in jail. How supported and well connected is he? It branches out from the three individuals are tied, they're woven into such a tight braid. We've got the father. Now how much farther does it go from there, Martin? How much more of a net of involvement is going on with this group of individuals? That's what my gut feeling is telling me, that it is far more reaching than just this father and these three individuals. Now, they had to have additional help. If he's already discussing disposing or no body is recovered, there will be no evidence. I mean, you know, who all was involved in that?
It was 1 year ago today that Natalee Holloway disappeared during her high school graduation trip to Aruba. As investigators continue following up on leads, those close to Natalee are still desperate for answers. Fox 5's Portia Bruner has more.
That they are prime suspects in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway.
Private investigator T.J. Ward says he was hired last June by the family of 18-year-old Natalee Holloway. She's the Birmingham high school graduate who disappeared from the island of Aruba 1 year ago today. Ward is frustrated the case remains unsolved.
The law enforcement that's working on the case in Aruba now is trying to pick up the pieces, and I think they're legitimately trying to look for Natalee Holloway. But the problem is there's no evidence.
The Alpharetta investigator believes some authorities tried to protect Aaron Vandersloot, one of the initial suspects in the case. Ward hasn't worked for the family since September, but says he's been in touch with Natalee's mother, Beth, and says she believes her daughter's death may have been an accident.
We believe that from the alcohol that she was drinking and the drugs that may have been put in her drink at Carlos and Charlie's on the night of May 30th, she either had an overdose, she stopped breathing, had a heart attack, and the boys panicked and made a call somewhere to somebody, and they disposed of that body.
But Aruban authorities still have no solid evidence of a crime. 9 people have been arrested and released, and that's frustrating for those who knew Natalee Holloway well.
You hate it for the family, and you know, Beth worked her butt off the past year trying to get some solution and hasn't been able to, but it's something that'll, you know, we always think about.
Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News.
Natalee's parents requested that no public memorials be held to mark today's sad anniversary. Her mother spent today working on a website that promotes safe travel.
I would like to apologize to the Aruban people and the Aruban authorities if I or my family offended you in any way. It was never my intention to do so. And as the Aruban people, they have been extremely kind and generous, and especially supportive of myself and my family during this tragedy. I realize that the Aruban legal system abides by the presumption of innocence, and I want to reassure everyone that I do respect the Aruban legal system. The statements I made on July 5th were fueled by despair and frustration because of still not knowing where my daughter is. And I think everyone can sympathize with that. Furthermore, I would also like to clarify a false rumor that has been circulating in the press. I never asked or demanded from the Aruban government to pay an amount of United States dollars, $200,000 to the Texas EquiSearch team. Never.
tem nada de seguro, qual é seguro? Não, a mim não sabe.
A new witness has come forward in the 2005 disappearance of Natalee Holloway. That's according to prosecutors. A woman reportedly told Dutch police this month that Joran van der Sloot had confessed to her years ago about his involvement in the disappearance. But prosecutors say that doesn't bring authorities any closer to resolving the case because they still don't have the proof they would need to convict van der Sloot. Prosecutors say the witness would lack credibility in court unless she could explain why she waited so long to come forward. Van der Sloot has been arrested twice already and released both times for lack of evidence. Holloway, an 18-year-old from Alabama, was last seen in May of 2005, leaving a bar in Aruba with van der Sloot. It was the last night of her high school graduation trip to the island. Mike Gracia, The Associated Press.
The father of Natalee Holloway is asking an Alabama court to declare his daughter dead 6 years after she vanished on a trip to Aruba. In a sworn statement, Dave Holloway wrote that he painfully believes his daughter is dead. He says there's no evidence to suggest Natalee is alive or that she ran away from home. Her body was never found, despite extensive searches. Dave Holloway's attorney says his client is seeking closure for the family. His ex-wife, Beth Holloway, declined to comment on whether she would oppose the petition through a spokeswoman. Authorities say former Aruba resident Joran van der Sloot is still the prime suspect in Natalee's disappearance. He confessed and recanted a role in her disappearance several times. He is now charged in the death of a young woman who was murdered in Peru. An initial hearing on Dave Holloway's request is set for September 23rd. Court officials say it could be months before any decision is reached. Nia Hawkins, Associated Press.
This May was the 4th anniversary of Natalee's disappearance, and I know firsthand that the not knowing is the worst. The not knowing. Parents want to know what happened to their child.
There's a long list of these young adult females, and for Natalee's case to have been chosen, to be placed here was just an honor, and because I know what it means and the renewal of hope and strength it gives you in your journey.
So we hope that this will be maybe the one key to breaking this case and finding out what really happened to Natalee Holloway.
I know that there are a lot of unsolved cases out there, and there are a lot of families that want their loved one's name mentioned, even if it's just mentioned in the media. And I hope in some way that Natalee's case represents a lot of families that have unsolved cases. And from Tara Grinstead to Amy Bradley to Jennifer Kessy, there's an endless list of these young adults that are missing and most likely murdered. So I'm just very honored and grateful to be here, and I hope that Natalee's case doesn't stay up here long. I hope it's solved and another unsolved case can take her place.
A source tells the Associated Press an American tourist detained in Aruba tried to redeem an accidental death policy on the missing woman he was traveling with. Gary Giordano is being held by Aruban authorities in connection with the disappearance of Robin Gardner. The source tells the Associated Press Giordano purchased a $1.5 million insurance policy on Gardner shortly before the trip. He tried redeeming the policy just 2 days after telling police she disappeared while they were snorkeling earlier this month. Investigators are trying to determine if there's anything unusual about the policy. Meanwhile, authorities in Aruba are still trying to figure out what happened to Gardner and are preparing for a massive search of the island, with police, firefighters, and possibly the military taking part. The FBI also is conducting interviews and assisting local authorities in the case. John Belmont, Associated Press.